What if the completely mundane, totally fleeting thoughts you had while staring blankly into the bathroom mirror brushing your teeth this morning, like literally dictated whether you'll land that massive client account next week?
Right. And we really don't mean that in some vague psychological, positive attitude kind of way.
No, I mean physically. Like, what if your internal monologue is the actual architectural blueprint for the physical probability of your day?
It's a huge concept to wrap your head around.
It really is. So, welcome to today's audio exploration. We've got this fascinating stack of highly guarded, strictly anonymous materials in front of us.
And they essentially argue that probability is absolutely not a random roll of the dice.
Yeah, it is an architecture that you are actively building with your internal dialogue, your energetic baseline, and the precise mechanics of your attention.
Okay, let's unpack this.
I love that we're tackling this. The mission today is to entirely deconstruct the hidden physics of reality creation that these texts talk about. Exactly. And to anchor these massive, sometimes totally mind-bending concepts into something tangible for you listening, I want to introduce you to a composite character based on the case studies in these materials.
That's a great idea. It grounds the theory.
Right. So we'll call him Jordan.
Jordan is actually the perfect archetype for this discussion because he embodies the paradox of modern achievement.
Oh, 100%.
He is the guy doing absolutely everything we are socially conditioned to believe is correct.
Exactly. I mean, Jordan is a machine. He's the guy who sets his alarm for 4:30 a.m. every single day.
Taking the freezing cold shower.
Yes, the cold shower. Because it builds discipline, right? He listens to super aggressive motivational speeches during his commute.
He's the first one in the office and the absolute last one to leave.
Always. He is constantly trying to prove his irreplaceability to his boss, his worth to his family, his value to himself. And every morning, despite feeling this, like, hollow, creeping exhaustion in his chest.
Because of course he's exhausted.
Right, but he forces himself to look in the rearview mirror and aggressively declare, "Today is going to be a spectacular day. I am a winner."
Yeah, it's the sheer force of will. He's basically wearing forced positivity like a suit of heavy armor, just preparing to go to war with his own life.
And war is exactly what he gets. Because here's the central challenge, the absolute core of Jordan's confusion.
The friction.
Yes, despite this Herculean effort, despite doing everything right according to the standard hustle playbook, Jordan is constantly swimming upstream in a river of wet concrete. The friction is unbearable.
The universe just keeps pushing back.
Exactly. Like the morning of his biggest quarterly presentation, his perfectly maintained car inexplicably refuses to start.
Unbelievable.
Right. He finally gets to the office, and the promotion he was verbally promised goes to a colleague who takes 2-hour lunches and barely even checks their email.
Oh, that is the worst feeling.
It's brutal. He spills black coffee on his only clean shirt 3 minutes before stepping into the boardroom. And he constantly, almost involuntarily, catches himself muttering under his breath, "Why does this always happen to me?"
Yeah, why is my luck so completely toxic?
Exactly. He's entirely burned out, and he just cannot comprehend why his relentless, punishing hustle is acting as a giant electromagnet for disaster.
What's fascinating here is that Jordan's failure isn't a lack of effort.
No, not at all.
His failure is rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of the physics of his environment. He is operating within a completely outdated paradigm of how reality actually functions.
Okay, tell me more about that outdated paradigm.
Well, he is trying to manipulate the external world through sheer physical force, while remaining completely blind to the non-physical mechanisms that are actually generating his circumstances.
So he's fighting the symptom, not the cause.
Precisely. Today's analysis is going to completely strip away that confusion. We're going to examine the exact mechanics of why Jordan's reality looks the way it does.
And more importantly, how you, the listener, can alter this underlying source code in your own life.
Yes. So let's start with the most obvious culprit in Jordan's mind. Luck.
Right, because society has essentially indoctrinated us to believe that luck is just this blind, chaotic lottery system.
We are taught that the universe basically rolls the dice. Some people get snake eyes, some people get sevens.
And the rest of us just have to grind through whatever hand we're dealt.
Exactly. But these source materials unequivocally dismantle that idea.
They really do. They assert that probability, which is what we casually label as luck, is actually an incredibly malleable structure. It's heavily influenced by our internal, often completely unconscious expectations.
And that is the necessary starting point for this entire philosophy.
Mm.
We have to completely abandon the comforting illusion of random victimhood.
It's comforting because it lets us off the hook.
Exactly. If it's random, it's not my fault. But the materials we are synthesizing suggest that we actually possess immense continuous influence over the probability fields surrounding us.
Okay, so to illustrate this, the texts introduce this concept of the continuous scavenger hunt.
Yes, the scavenger hunt.
The premise is that every single day, your neurological and energetic systems are deployed on a scavenger hunt. And you are either actively participating in the negative scavenger hunt or the positive scavenger hunt.
There is absolutely no neutral ground. You're doing one or the other.
And Jordan, by all accounts, is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the negative scavenger hunt.
Oh, without question. Because when you unconsciously expect friction, betrayal, or bad luck, your brain becomes a highly specialized instrument for finding it.
It's like a radar system.
Exactly. You literally train your neurological filtering systems to discard massive amounts of neutral or positive data just to zero in on the threat.
So if you were on the negative scavenger hunt, you'll walk into a room of 50 smiling people and immediately lock eyes with the one person who is scowling.
Yes. Or you'll drive down a beautifully paved 10-mile road and obsess over the single pothole you hit.
Right. But conversely, training yourself to embark on the positive scavenger hunt rewires that filtering system.
It does. You begin to spot favorable outcomes, hidden leverage points, and moments of serendipity, even when you are navigating an incredibly stressful environment.
No, I get the psychological angle of this, like the confirmation bias. It's like when you decide to buy a specific model of a bright red car, and suddenly everywhere you look on the highway, you see that exact bright red car.
Right, the classic red car phenomenon.
Yeah, the factory didn't suddenly churn out 1,000,000 red cars overnight just to mess with you.
Yeah.
Your brain simply removed the filter that was previously ignoring them.
And just let the data in.
But I have to ask, is that all these sources are claiming, is this really just a psychological trick of wearing rose-colored glasses to make a miserable life feel slightly more tolerable?
No, not at all.
Or are they suggesting an actual, tangible, energetic shift is occurring in the environment?
It goes profoundly deeper than a processual parlor trick. The neurological filtering, that red car phenomenon, is merely the biological shadow of a much larger energetic mechanism.
Okay.
The sources argue that operating from a baseline of genuine, positive anticipation and gratitude fundamentally alters your physiological and electromagnetic signature.
So it's measurable.
Yes. There is a documented, though anonymized in these texts, scale of consciousness that directly maps human emotional states to measurable energetic frequencies.
So we're treating human emotion not as abstract poetry, but as a quantifiable metric, like a thermometer for your creative capacity.
Exactly like a thermometer.
Right.
The lowest frequencies on this scale are defined by emotions like apathy, guilt, shame, and fear.
And those feel heavy.
They're incredibly dense, contracted states of being. When your baseline operates in that lower register, you are consuming all of your available life force just to maintain the heavy armor of those emotions.
You're just in pure survival mode.
You are in survival mode. You have absolutely zero surplus energy to broadcast into the environment to attract or collapse favorable probabilities.
Wow.
But as you move up the scale into willingness, courage, joy, peace, and profound gratitude, you aren't just feeling better psychologically.
What happens?
You are generating an exponential surplus of creative energy. And it's crucial to note that this scale is logarithmic, not linear.
Wait, logarithmic?
Yeah, the energetic difference between fear and courage isn't just a small step. It is a massive mathematical magnitude of difference in your available power.
Which perfectly explains why Jordan is trapped. His fundamental issue isn't just a bad attitude.
No.
His energetic gas tank is permanently running on fumes because his relentless negative scavenger hunt, his constant scanning for threats and unfairness, keeps him violently anchored in fear and frustration.
He's a completely closed, depleted circuit.
Precisely. He has no energetic magnetism, no surplus frequency to pull favorable probabilities into his localized experience. He's desperately trying to push a boulder up a hill while simultaneously starving himself of the very fuel required to do it.
It's a losing battle.
Okay, so Jordan is energetically drained, but how does a drained internal battery cause a physical car tire to go flat?
Right.
Or cause a boss to make a specific promotion decision? That gap between mind and matter is where these sources get truly radical and, honestly, a bit difficult to swallow at first glance.
It challenges everything we're taught.
Because to explain the how, we have to transition into the literal physics of reality. The texts claim that the physical world we interact with, the desk we are sitting at, the coffee cup the concrete Jordan is swimming in, constitutes less than 1% of actual reality.
It is a staggering proposition because human biology is exclusively tuned to perceive that tiny fraction of a percent.
Right. Our eyes, ears, tactile senses, they're designed to interact with dense matter.
But the overwhelming majority of reality, according to these physics models, exists in a non-physical state, as pure energy, as oscillating frequencies, as infinite wave potentials.
So the hard physical world is basically just the dense, final, localized manifestation of all that unseen non-physical activity.
Exactly. To back this up, the sources heavily reference a foundational experiment in quantum mechanics.
Yeah, and we won't name the specific physicists or the laboratory to keep our focus strictly on the anonymous mechanics of the phenomena.
But anyone familiar with physics will recognize it as the double-slit experiment.
Let's walk through this because the implications are reality-breaking.
The implications absolutely dismantle the classical Newtonian view of the universe entirely.
So in the simplest terms possible, physicists fire tiny subatomic particles like individual photons of light or electrons through a barrier that has two microscopic slips cut into it.
Right, and behind this barrier is a receptor wall to measure where the particles land and what kind of pattern they form.
Right. And classical logic says, if I fire a bunch of tiny physical bullets through two slits, I should get two relatively neat vertical lines of bullet holes on the back wall.
That is exactly what you would expect from physical matter.
Yeah.
But that is not what happens when the experiment is left entirely unobserved.
This is the crazy part.
It really is. When no conscious entity and no measuring device acting as a proxy for consciousness is tracking the exact path of these particles, they do not behave like solid bullets.
They behave like a wave, right?
Yes, they behave like a continuous wave of pure, undefined energy. The wave ripples through both slits simultaneously. The two emerging waves interfere with one another, and they create a wide, scattered, multi-striped interference pattern on the back wall.
Meaning, until they are looked at, they aren't solid objects at all. They exist as a wave of infinite potential.
Yes.
They are quite literally everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
Exactly. They exist in a state of quantum superposition. But here is the crux of the entire philosophy. The exact microsecond a conscious entity, or a measuring device, attempts to observe the particle to determine definitively which slit it passed through, the wave behavior instantaneously collapses.
The infinite potential just vanishes.
It vanishes. The particle suddenly acts like a hard, solid bullet, and it forms those two neat little lines on the back wall.
So the simple act of observation forces the infinite wave of energy to make a localized decision, collapsing into a single, defined physical outcome.
Yes.
Now, I understand how an electron behaves in a vacuum tube in a multi-million-dollar laboratory, but here's where I need to push you, because this is where the listener is going to call our bluff.
Okay, go for it.
How do these sources justify scaling a...
Well, the transition from the quantum realm to the macro realm is often referred to in physics as decoherence. But the sources frame it through the lens of localized consciousness acting as an organizing field.
Okay, explain that.
You have to remember that Jordan's car battery, his boss's brain chemistry, and his coffee cup are not solid objects. They are massive, complex amalgamations of these exact same subatomic particles.
They're just huge collections of waves.
Yes, they are highly organized probability matrices. The text suggests that the human brain and the electromagnetic field generated by the human heart act as massive, continuous quantum observers.
So we're always observing.
Always. We're not just passively observing reality. Our expectations, our deeply held beliefs, and our dominant frequencies are the very localized fields that force the macro environment to collapse into the specific patterns we anticipate.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I was trying to visualize this macro collapse, and the best analogy I found is the rendering engine of a massive, modern, open-world video game.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to look at it.
Right. When you play one of these games, the computer's processor does not simultaneously render the millions of individual leaves, rocks, shadows, and buildings across the entire virtual continent.
Doing so would instantly fry the motherboard.
Exactly. It's incredibly inefficient. Instead, the game engine only renders the specific trees and physical boundaries that your character turns their camera to look at.
Yes.
Everything else behind you, miles away, just exists as pure code on a hard drive. Pure potential. It only becomes a physical object in the game world when you direct your attention to it.
That analogy translates the concept perfectly.
Right.
The universe appears to operate on an identical principle of absolute resource efficiency.
Right.
Reality, at its core, remains in a fluid state of pure potentiality until conscious attention and expectation force it to take a defined, localized physical form.
So bringing this theory right back down to the ground with our guy Jordan,
Let's do it.
if our persistent attention and expectation collapse the quantum wave into a physical particle, what kind of particles is Jordan collapsing into his daily life by constantly, obsessively hyper-fixating on his bad luck?
He's collapsing the worst possible outcomes.
Like when he wakes up, stubs his toe, and instantly spirals into, of course, my life is a disaster, nothing is ever going to work out for me today. What is he actively doing to the probability matrix of his Tuesday?
He is using his conscious observation, his highly concentrated attention fueled by the emotion of frustration, to actively collapse wave potentials of disaster, failure, and friction into hard physical reality.
Wow. He's doing it to himself.
He is the architect constructing the physical manifestation of his own lack.
Because the universe is neutral.
The universe itself is entirely neutral. It simply offers a wave of infinite superimposed probabilities. But Jordan's deeply ingrained, terrified expectations act as the specific observer that forces that wave to collapse into the exact negative outcome he is most afraid of. He is constantly observing his own victimhood, and the universe flawlessly obliges by rendering a victimizing reality around him.
He is essentially rendering his own personal nightmare pixel by agonizing pixel.
Exactly.
Which brings us to a critical mechanical question. If observation is the primary tool that collapses reality, how exactly are we observing?
Right, because it's not just our eyes.
Because it clearly isn't just our physical eyeballs passively taking in light. The sources are incredibly explicit that our spoken words and our internal looping thoughts are the primary instruments of quantum observation.
Yes, our internal dialogue is key.
They highlight a fascinating ancient concept, a word many of us immediately associate with stage magicians pulling rabbits out of top hats. But tracing it back to its ancient linguistic roots, it roughly translates to, I create as I speak.
It completely strips away the theatrical illusion of a magic trick and places the phrase firmly in the context of quantum mechanics.
I create as I speak.
The text delved deeply into the sheer volume of this creation. The average human being processes anywhere between 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts every single day.
80,000 separate thoughts. It's a relentless, nonstop radio station broadcasting inside our skulls.
And here's the truly terrifying metric for someone stuck in Jordan's cycle. Neurological studies highlighted in the material suggest that up to 95% of those daily thoughts are the exact same unconscious, repetitive, heavily grooved thoughts they had yesterday.
And the day before that.
Yes, they are running on a deeply entrenched default mode network. If your thoughts are the literal mechanism collapsing your reality into form, and 95% of your thoughts are a recycled, unexamined loop of anxiety, imposter syndrome, and anger.
Your reality remains completely frozen in time.
Exactly. You're trying to write a new chapter using only the vocabulary of the past. It's mathematically impossible to create a new future than the thoughts of yesterday.
Because these words and thoughts aren't just invisible, harmless ghosts floating in your head.
No, they carry weight.
They aren't just vibrations of air hitting a vocal cord. The materials heavily emphasize that words are complex symbols carrying specific, measurable, energetic frequencies.
Yes.
When Jordan stands by the jammed office printer, crosses his arms, and sighs to his coworker, I will never get ahead at this toxic company, he isn't just blowing off steam.
He isn't just venting.
No, he is actively issuing a specific command to the rendering engine. He is broadcasting a measurable limitation into the non-physical field.
He is finalizing the blueprint for his own stagnation. And this is exactly why the sources are so aggressively opposed to the seemingly harmless habits of daily life.
Like the workplace gossip.
Yes, the gossip, the constant complaining about the weather or the economy, the self-deprecating jokes we make to seem humble.
We treat these behaviors as social lubricants, right? Innocent ways to bond with others over shared misery.
But from a strict energetic standpoint, they are massive gaping leaks in your system. They are actively siphoning away the precise creative power, the vital energetic capital that you desperately need to alter your circumstances. You are bleeding out your own probability every single time you indulge in a low-frequency complaint.
Okay, we see the leak. The boat is taking on water. But how do we actually stop the bleeding?
It takes practice.
Because telling Jordan to just stop thinking negative thoughts is intellectually bankrupt. It's like telling someone not to think of a giant pink elephant.
The very effort of trying not to think about it forces you to visualize it.
Exactly, it's a paradox. However, the sources suggest a very specific, almost ridiculously theatrical technique for dealing with these deeply ingrained neural loops. Let's refer to it as the bug technique.
Yes, this is a highly effective cognitive override.
Sure.
The primary rule here is that you cannot violently repress the negative thought.
Right, because what you resist persists.
The universe operates on that exact principle. Repression requires massive amounts of focused energy, and directing energy at the negative thought simply feeds it.
So what's the alternative?
Instead, the goal is total disidentification. When a negative program surfaces, let's say Jordan's brain screams at him, "You are a total fraud, everyone knows it, and they're going to fire you on Friday." He needs to immediately separate his core identity from that intrusive software.
And the technique suggests doing this by visualizing that terrifying thought, not as the absolute undeniable truth of the universe, but as a highly insignificant little bug.
Like a little cartoon ant sitting on your shoulder.
Yes. And here's the key. You give the ant the most ridiculous, goofy, squeaky voice you can possibly imagine.
It changes the entire dynamic.
So instead of this booming, authoritative voice of God echoing in your skull telling you that you're a failure, it's this tiny helium-voiced cartoon bug squeaking, "You're a fraud and everybody knows it."
It sounds utterly absurd on the surface, but the underlying neuroscience is incredibly sound.
How so?
It is designed to instantly break the pattern of intimidation. It short-circuits the amygdala's fear response.
Because you can't be terrified of a cartoon bug.
Exactly. By doing this, you consciously realize that you are not the program. You are the infinite, co-creative observer that happens to be listening to a piece of faulty, outdated software running in the background.
That separation is everything.
You allow the silly little bug to finish its squeaky, pathetic speech. You observe it without judgment. And in the safety of that observation, you realize it possesses absolutely zero actual power over your physical body or your future probability.
Now, I understand the mechanism for daily neuroses, but I need to push back on this firmly.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because if someone is dealing with profound, ingrained trauma, let's say they have deep psychological wounds from a history of abuse or a catastrophic life event, telling them to just picture their visceral panic as a squeaky cartoon bug feels dangerously close to minimizing their pain.
Right.
It feels patronizing, frankly. Did the sources differentiate between a passing negative thought about a spreadsheet and a deep nervous system level psychological wound?
That is a vital distinction, and your pushback is entirely justified. The texts do not suggest using cognitive tricks to bypass severe, unprocessed trauma.
Okay, good.
Trauma is stored deeply in the body and often requires dedicated somatic processing. The bug technique is specifically targeted at the daily, repetitive neurotic loops, the acquired habits of negative self-talk that we mistake for intuition.
Got it.
However, even with deeper wounds, the fundamental principle of disidentification remains a cornerstone of healing. You are not minimizing the pain, you are changing your relationship to it.
Right.
The problem is when we use the words "I am."
Oh, yeah.
I am is the most powerful identity statement in the human language. When you say, "I am unworthy" or "I am broken," you are cementing that into your reality.
It becomes a life sentence.
Disidentification means you step back and say, "I am currently experiencing a profound physiological and mental program of unworthiness." Do you feel the massive psychological space that simple shift creates?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I am broken leaves no room for anything else. I am experiencing a program of brokenness is an observation of a passing weather pattern.
Yes.
A devastating hurricane, perhaps, but still a weather pattern that will eventually pass.
Exactly. You are the sky watching the hurricane. You watch the weather, you listen to the bug.
And then what?
And once the energy of the thought begins to dissipate, you exercise your conscious authority as the observer. The sources recommend mentally saying the word cancel.
Cancel.
You visualize squashing the bug or simply swiping it away like a meaningless push notification on your smartphone screen.
I love that visual.
This specific conscious act of cancellation signals to your nervous system that the threat is neutralized, severing the emotional cord and stopping the program from feeding on your creative energy.
Okay, let's track Jordan's progress here. He's at his desk. The intrusive thought hits. I'm gonna get fired. He successfully visualizes the goofy bug. He listens to the squeak. He creates the space of disidentification. He says cancel, and he mentally squashes it. The negative loop is successfully interrupted.
Perfect execution.
But as we know, Nature absolutely abhors a vacuum. The brain cannot just hold empty space. He has to replace that canceled thought with a new one.
This is a critical juncture.
And this is exactly where the modern self-help industry usually introduces toxic positivity, and the sources issue a massive, glaring warning about this exact trap.
It is a profound warning, because if you squash a deeply ingrained negative thought and immediately try to force a wildly positive, completely unbelievable affirmation over the top of it, you will actually generate significantly more psychological damage.
And energetic resistance.
Yes.
Right. Like, if Jordan is staring at an overdrawn bank account, feeling totally defeated, and he goes to the bathroom mirror and screams, "I am a divine, infinite creator of boundless, overflowing wealth."
His brain is going to violently call his bluff.
Exactly. It's going to look at the math and say, "You are a liar."
Yeah. And that rejection creates immense internal friction. Your subconscious mind is acutely aware of your current localized reality.
It knows what's going on.
When you scream an affirmation that violently contradicts your deeply held experiential beliefs, it immediately triggers your internal defense mechanisms.
So it actually backfires.
Massively. It forces your brain to highlight the massive, glaring gap between where you currently are and the fantastical reality you are claiming to inhabit.
Ouch.
This cognitive dissonance actually generates acute feelings of lack, unworthiness, and resistance. It forces you further down that emotional frequency scale, often plunging you right back into guilt or shame because you feel like a failure for not being able to believe your own positive affirmations.
Man, that is a vicious cycle. So if the giant quantum leap into millionaire mindset doesn't work, how do we actually reprogram the subconscious without triggering a civil war in the brain?
We use a stepping stone approach.
The sources introduce something incredibly practical, methodical, and rooted in how humans actually learn. Let's explore the latter technique.
This is one of my favorite concepts.
It is the concept of incremental belief upgrades. The idea is simple. You do not try to jump from the bottom rung of the ladder all the way to the roof in a single desperate bound.
You'd fall and break your neck.
Right. You simply look for the very next reachable rung.
Finding the best next rung is the ultimate secret to bypassing the mind's rigid resistance.
Okay, give me an example.
If your current baseline, the bottom rung where Jordan is standing, is a deeply held conviction that says, "I am a complete failure at my job," the next reachable rung is absolutely not. "I am the CEO of this company and everything I touch turns to gold."
Yeah, that is way too far. The mind's immune system will attack it.
Exactly. The next rung might simply be a completely neutral, irrefutable statement of possibility.
Like what?
It might be, "I am a human being, and I have the cognitive capacity to learn how to be slightly more organized tomorrow."
That makes so much sense. It constantly reminds me of progressive overload in weightlifting.
Oh, that's a perfect parallel.
I love this analogy because the biological mechanisms map so perfectly to mental conditioning. You cannot walk into a gym on your very first day, having never touched a weight in your life, load 300 pounds onto the barbell, and expect to bench press it.
It would literally crush you.
If you try, your central nervous system will panic, your muscles will fail, you will physically crush yourself, and the trauma will ensure you never walk into a gym again.
Your system just is not prepared for that load.
Right. You have to start with the empty bar, just 45 pounds of steel.
And in this context, the empty bar represents that entirely neutral, perfectly believable thought.
Exactly. You press the empty bar for 2 weeks, and what happens? Your central nervous system adapts. It builds the necessary neural pathways.
It gets comfortable.
It stops viewing the barbell as a mortal threat. Once that adaptation occurs, you add just 10 pounds. Your brain assesses the new weight and says, okay, this is slightly heavier, it requires a bit more effort, but I've proven I can handle the bar. This is believable. Once the system adapts to the new load, you add another 10 pounds. You incrementally load the system, safely expanding your capacity without ever triggering the panic response.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is exactly how you rewire the subconscious mind without triggering a rebellion.
It's all about safety.
By reaching for a thought that feels just slightly better but remains 100% believable to his logical, critical mind, Jordan builds genuine, undeniable neural pathways of momentum.
So he starts at the bottom.
He goes from the bottom rung of, "I'm going to get fired and lose my house," up to a neutral rung. "I have successfully solved difficult problems at work in the past."
Which is a historical fact. His brain cannot reject it.
Exactly. Once his nervous system accepts that truth, he can reach for the next rung. I'm curious to see what strategies I can use to navigate this current challenge.
The shift from absolute panic to simple neutrality, and then from neutrality to genuine curiosity.
And from the safety of curiosity,
Hmm.
the mind is finally open to step into genuine empowerment.
Right.
He can eventually reach the rung that says, I am highly confident in my ability to handle whatever outcome occurs. Over a period of weeks, by climbing this ladder safely and methodically, he smoothly overwrites his unconscious programming without ever setting off the internal alarm bells.
So, what is the ultimate result when Jordan commits to this? When he religiously squashes the mental bugs, when he commits to the positive scavenger hunt, when he climbs the ladder rung by believable rung?
Everything changes.
The materials suggest that as you undergo this incremental rewiring, your entire operating system for interacting with reality goes through a massive structural upgrade.
Yes, the texts categorize this evolution into three fundamental stages of reality interaction.
And tracking Jordan's journey through these three specific stages is incredibly illuminating for anyone trying to figure out where they are currently stuck.
These three stages act as a precise evolutionary map for human consciousness. Stage 1 is the baseline for an enormous percentage of modern society. It is defined in the texts as the to-me stage.
Life happens to me,
Exactly. This is the realm of pure, unadulterated victimhood.
where you just feel completely powerless.
In this stage, you view yourself as a fragile leaf being violently blown about by the wind of external circumstances. You possess zero internal agency.
Right.
The macroeconomic climate happens to you. Your boss's unpredictable mood happens to you. The traffic on the highway happens to you.
And the emotions there are heavy.
The predominant emotional frequencies anchoring you to this stage are apathy, deep-seated resentment, and anger at the inherent unfairness of the universe. It is a state of utter, exhausting powerlessness.
This is exactly where Jordan started, but then Jordan gets fed up. The pain of stage 1 becomes too great. He reads some intense motivational literature, he decides to take extreme ownership of his life, and he forces his way into stage 2.
Ah, yes, stage 2.
This is the by me stage. Life happens by me.
And we must acknowledge that this is an incredibly celebrated stage in our current culture.
It really is.
This is the absolute zenith of the hustle and grind mentality. This is the realm of sheer, unyielding willpower. In stage 2, you pride yourself on your ability to fight the current, to overcome massive obstacles through sheer brute force and late nights.
Your mantra is, if it is going to be, it is entirely up to me.
Exactly.
Which on paper sounds like the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
It is undeniably a massive upgrade from being a helpless victim weeping in stage 1. You are getting things done.
True. But the sources spend a significant amount of time pointing out a massive, often fatal hidden cost to remaining in the by me stage.
They use a very specific biological term to describe the energy of this stage. They call it catabolic.
Yes, catabolic, meaning it actively breaks down the organism.
Like it's eating itself.
Operating purely in the by me stage requires immense, continuous amounts of energetic friction. You are constantly in opposition to the world, viewing everything as a nail because you've decided to be the hammer. You are trying to bend the localized probability field to your will through force. While you can absolutely achieve significant material and financial success this way, the cellular cost is devastating.
Because of the stress hormones.
You are running your body on a continuous drip of cortisol and adrenaline. It energetically depletes your cells, shortens your telomeres, and fragments your attention.
Wow.
It is the fast track to severe adrenal burnout, chronic stress-related illnesses, and a profound sense of isolation because you view every other human being and circumstance as an obstacle to be conquered or bypassed.
It's the ultimate hamster wheel. You conquer one massive goal, you get the promotion, but the relief only lasts for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's that.
Right. Because your entire identity is wrapped up in being the hustler, the wheel just spins faster, demanding you immediately find a new, harder obstacle to conquer just to validate your existence. You never actually arrive.
Never.
But the texts promise there's a way off the wheel. And this brings us to stage 3, the through me stage. Life happens through me.
This is the ultimate paradigm shift the texts are pointing toward.
This happens here.
In the through me stage, you undergo a fundamental realization that the universe, at its core, is not a hostile environment you have to survive.
Yeah.
It is a fundamentally friendly, supportive, and interconnected system.
That's a huge shift in perspective.
You no longer feel the desperate, clawing need to constantly prove your worth, defend your fragile ego, or conquer your environment. You transition from being the hammer to recognizing yourself as a clear, unobstructed channel, a conduit for larger creative energy.
The sources describe this as entering a perpetual state of flow, high magnetism, and low energetic entropy. It is anabolic, meaning it builds you up, regenerates your cells, and creates surplus energy rather than breaking you down.
Exactly.
But I have to play the skeptic here again, because when people, especially highly driven people, hear phrases like, life happens through me, and stop forcing things, just allow it, it can incredibly easily sound like a spiritualized excuse for absolute laziness.
I hear that concern a lot.
Does entering the through me stage mean Jordan just goes home, sits cross-legged on his couch, meditates on a quartz crystal, and waits for the CEO of his company to magically float through his living room window and hand him a corner office?
Not at all.
Because in the real physical world we inhabit, that sounds like a guaranteed recipe for getting fired and evicted.
This raises an important question, and it is the most common and dangerous misinterpretation of these concepts. Through me is absolutely not a state of passivity.
Okay.
It does not advocate for inaction or sitting on the couch. What it demands is a completely different quality and origin of action.
The quality of the action changes.
Yes. In the by me stage, your actions are driven by desperate anxiety, a profound fear of failure, and the neurotic need to control every single microscopic variable.
Right.
It's the equivalent of jumping into a raging river and swimming furiously upstream against the current. You're expending massive energy and barely moving. In the through me stage, your action is driven by sharp, clear intuition and genuine inspiration.
You stop fighting the river. You turn around and align your boat with the current.
Exactly. You align your boat with the natural flow of the probability matrix.
Yeah.
And you absolutely still have to paddle.
You can't just drop the oars.
No, you have to steer the boat, you have to keep your eyes open, you have to navigate the rocks and the rapids, but you are now paddling with the immense, undeniable momentum of the river at your back.
That makes total sense.
The physical action you take in stage 3 is actually highly effective, incredibly precise, and perhaps even more vigorous than in stage 2, but it entirely lacks the heavy, exhausting, soul-crushing friction of resistance.
So it feels easy even when you're working hard.
Yes. You take action because it feels like the natural, obvious, inspired next step in the sequence, not because you are terrified of the catastrophe that will unfold if you don't.
Okay, that clarifies the distinction beautifully. The action is inspired and aligned, not desperate and forced. But the million-dollar question is the application. How do we actually execute that transition? How does Jordan step off the exhausting by-me hamster wheel, lower his cortisol, and enter the magnetic through-me flow state?
There is a key shift he has to make.
The sources pinpoint one highly specific, crucial behavioral shift that must occur. He must completely stop placing extreme life-or-death importance on his goals.
This is arguably the most vital, counterintuitive, mechanical rule in the entire philosophy.
Why is that?
The texts refer to it as the law of balance and harmony. To understand this, you must view the universe as a massive, perfectly calibrated, self-balancing, thermodynamic ecosystem.
Okay.
When you place intense, desperate importance on a specific outcome, for example, Jordan staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. telling himself, I absolutely must get this promotion. If I don't get it, I'm a total failure, my peers will laugh at me, I won't be able to pay my mortgage, and my life is functionally over.
He isn't just stressing himself out.
No. He is creating a massive energetic spike in the field. He generates what the texts call excess potential, a huge buildup of unnatural, localized pressure in the system.
He's gripping the steering wheel of his life so tightly that his knuckles are white and the steering column is snapping.
Yes. And the universe, operating on the fundamental physics of seeking equilibrium and balance, will naturally and automatically generate opposing forces to dissipate that unnatural pressure.
So how does it do that?
How does it neutralize the pressure of his desperation? By generating circumstances that naturally repel the very object of his desire. The resistance he meets is equal to the pressure he creates.
I think we need to ground this in a highly relatable human experience to make the physics clear. The absolute perfect example of this is the dating analogy.
Oh, that is the best way to explain it.
We have all either witnessed this play out or painfully been this person at some point in our lives. Neediness inherently repels. Full stop.
It absolutely does.
Imagine you go on a first date. You sit down at the coffee shop, and the person across the table is intensely staring at you, desperately clinging to every single word you say, laughing way too hard at your jokes.
Making it abundantly, uncomfortably clear that their entire future happiness and self-worth depends entirely on whether you like them and call them back.
Right. What is your immediate physiological response to that energy?
Your nervous system recognizes it as a threat. You want to run in the exact opposite direction, immediately.
Right. Your intuition screams, danger, this is way too much pressure, I cannot be responsible for this person's will to live. You naturally repel them.
Exactly.
And it's not because they are inherently a bad person or ugly or malicious. You repel them strictly because the energetic weight they're placing on your shoulders is suffocating.
So true.
Well, if we scale that up, the sources are arguing that we do the exact same thing to our financial goals, our career aspirations, and our creative projects when we desperately cling to them.
We push them away.
We smother our desired probabilities with so much heavy, desperate importance that the universe has to pull them away just to restore equilibrium.
That analogy flawlessly translates the quantum mechanics into human psychology. The core psychological malfunction driving this intense desperation is identified in the sources as the "I'll feel great when" trap.
Oh, I've been in that trap.
Most of us have. Jordan operates under the deeply ingrained delusion that he is strictly not allowed to feel happy, secure, or worthy until the external physical circumstance changes to validate him.
I'll feel great when I get the title change.
I'll feel secure when my bank account finally hits a specific arbitrary number. He has made his internal emotional state a hostage to external conditions.
And the sources fiercely, uncompromisingly insist that this equation is completely backwards. We are trying to push the cart with the horse inside it. We must feel great now.
Yeah.
Joy, profound peace, and a sense of internal security do not require a permission slip from your external physical reality.
If you wait for the external physical reality to change before you permit yourself to feel good, you will be waiting until the day you die.
Because it's a moving target.
Exactly. Because, as we established earlier with the double-slit concept, the external reality is merely a delayed, localized reflection of your dominant internal state.
The mirror cannot smile first.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
You must generate the frequency of gratitude, security, and fulfillment first, in the present moment, regardless of the external chaos. Only then do you collapse those matching wave potentials into your future experience.
That is a beautiful sentiment, but we need to talk application.
Let's do it.
Because when Jordan is standing in the rain staring at a flat tire or reading a rejection email, how does he feel great now without completely dissociating from reality and becoming delusional?
It's not about being delusional.
Right. The sources offer some incredibly practical, in-the-moment physiological and cognitive tools to instantly shift frequency, to forcefully lower the stakes and drop the suffocating importance. Let's walk through the mechanics of these tools.
The first tool the texts provide is intensely physiological, and it targets the autonomic nervous system, diaphragmatic breathing.
Just breathing.
It sounds far too simple to resolve a quantum probability issue, but it works precisely because it hacks your biology. When you are trapped in a state of high importance, panic, and anxiety, your body automatically takes shallow, rapid breaths entirely into your upper chest.
Which signals panic to the brain.
Yes, this physical action signals directly to your brain's fear center that you are under immediate physical threat, like a predator is chasing you.
So how does breathing deeply change that?
By consciously starting, placing a physical hand on your belly, and taking 5 to 10 slow, deep, expansive breaths, pulling the air deep into the diaphragm, you manually stimulate the vagus nerve.
You literally override the sympathetic stress response.
You do. You send an undeniable physiological signal to your body, and therefore to your entire electromagnetic field that you are completely safe.
You forcefully break the biological circuit of panic before it can collapse a negative wave. The second tool they emphasize is dropping the intense mental analysis and finding joy in simple, immediate physical movement. Getting out of the spinning neurotic mind and anchoring back into the physical body.
Movement is medicine.
Doing 20 push-ups, taking a brisk walk around the building, literally feeling the physical warmth of the sun on your face, or putting on noise-canceling headphones and listening to a piece of music that moves you emotionally.
It resets the system.
It's about violently disrupting the mental loop by remembering that you are a biological organism alive right now, in this exact perfect moment, and your existence is not defined by office politics or an arbitrary goal.
And the third tool operates strictly on the cognitive level. It involves the strategic use of anchoring phrases, which are designed specifically to dismantle the high stakes of the outcome.
Okay, what do those sound like?
Instead of repeating desperate, clinging affirmations like, I must get this, I need this, you use phrases that communicate detached, powerful preference.
Like taking a breath before opening an email and saying, My preference is to get this promotion because it aligns with my skills, but it is completely fundamentally fine if it never happens.
Exactly. Or it will be this specific outcome, or it will be something vastly better that I cannot currently foresee.
I love that word.
Or I prefer this path, but my core happiness and worth are entirely independent of it.
Yeah, that drops the stakes so much.
By genuinely practicing this detachment and utilizing the latter technique to actually believe it, you take a pin to that massive balloon of excess potential.
You pop the balloon?
You instantly deflate the unnatural pressure in the field. You step completely out of the needy, clinging energy that repels the goal, and you step back into the center of your inherent, unbothered power.
So let's look at the final narrative resolution for Jordan. He doesn't just read these anonymous materials and theorize, he actually executes the mechanics.
He puts in the work.
He stops viewing his corporate career as a brutal, zero-sum battleground where he has to violently conquer his peers. He actively, consciously lowers the desperate, white-knuckled importance of the promotion.
He uses the tools.
He rigorously uses the diaphragmatic breathing before stepping into stressful meetings to keep his vagus nerve calm. When his imposter syndrome flares up, he visualizes the thought as a squeaky little cartoon bug, disidentifies from it, says cancel, and squashes it.
He interrupts the pattern.
He focuses intensely on finding tiny, immediate things to be grateful for in his daily tasks, slowly and safely climbing that ladder of belief. Most importantly, he stops treating the surrounding universe like a hostile, withholding entity that he has to wrestle into submission.
And by making those precise internal shifts, he completely steps out of the field of resistance.
He stops fighting.
He stops exhausting himself swimming upstream. He turns his boat and aligns it with the natural current. And what inevitably happens, according to the strict physics of this philosophy, is that his natural, powerful magnetism returns.
The energy comes back.
The immense creative energy he was previously bleeding out through anxiety, complaining, and friction is now contained and radiating outward. He becomes a clear, high-frequency observer.
And the physical reality responds.
And the probabilities, whether it turns out to be the exact promotion he originally thought he needed, or an entirely different, vastly superior opportunity he couldn't have possibly conceptualized from his previous low-frequency state, begin to effortlessly approach him.
Because he finally gracefully stopped chasing them away.
That's the secret.
It's absolutely wild to think about the mechanics of this. If we take a step back, zoom all the way out, and look at the broader implications of what these anonymous sources are claiming, it paints a breathtaking, almost intimidating picture of true human potential.
It truly does. It requires a fundamental, tectonic shift in how we view our place within the cosmos.
We aren't just gears in a machine.
No, we are emphatically not designed to be these fragile, insignificant little cogs grinding away in a giant, uncaring machine of suffering and random chance. We are not victims of a chaotic lottery.
What are we then?
The human mind and the human heart are highly advanced, inextricably linked receivers and transmitters of infinite creative energy.
When we finally decide to drop the ego's desperate, exhausting need to constantly prove itself, to defend its perceived limitations, and to violently conquer its environment, we unlock the door to this joyful, co-creative existence.
It's a completely different way to live.
To the people still trapped in stage 1 or sweating it out in stage 2 on the hamster wheel, this way of living looks like literal magic. It looks unfair.
But according to these texts, it's not magic at all.
No.
It's just the precise, natural law of a harmonious universe operating exactly as it was mathematically designed to.
It is the ultimate evolution, the transition from living by brute force to living by true resonant power.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's distill this into a punchy, actionable recap for you, the listener, so you can actually apply these mechanics to your reality this week.
First, forcefully trade the negative scavenger hunt for the positive one.
Yes, train your neurological filters to aggressively look for the good, the leverage, and the serendipity.
Remember the double slit experiment. Your focused attention acts as a quantum observer that literally collapses infinite wave potentials into your physical world.
So ruthlessly guard what you choose to observe. When deeply negative, disempowering thoughts pop up, do not fight them and feed them energy.
Visualize them as tiny, ridiculous, squeaky bugs. Disidentify, say cancel, and move on.
Do not traumatize your brain with forced toxic positivity, rewrite your subconscious by climbing the ladder of belief one safe, undeniably believable rung at a time.
And finally, evolve from the helpless victim past the exhausted hustler and into a pure, unobstructed channel of flow by aggressively lowering the desperate, suffocating importance you place on your goals.
Feel good now, simply because you exist.
That is a remarkably precise summary of the mechanics. But before we sign off today, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative concept to mull over.
Oh, I love these.
Something that builds upon everything we've unpacked. We've talked extensively about how rapidly shifting your internal frequency shifts your external physical reality.
Right.
But consider this proposition. What if the fundamental concept of time itself is nothing more than a temporary, highly necessary buffer?
A buffer.
Think about the implications. What if time is just a structural safety mechanism installed by the architecture of the universe, so that your physical reality doesn't change instantaneously with every single fleeting, chaotic, terrified thought you have?
Oh man, think about the implications of that. If our thoughts instantly manifested without a time delay, if every time Jordan thought, I'm going to crash my car, it instantly happened, we would completely destroy ourselves and our environments in a single afternoon.
Precisely. We lack the discipline for instantaneous creation. The time delay is a merciful safety net.
It's like training wheels.
It protects us while we slowly learn how to focus and discipline our minds. So what if patience isn't just some boring, puritanical moral virtue you're supposed to grit your teeth and suffer through?
Then what is it?
What if genuine, peaceful patience is actually the highest, most advanced form of quantum mechanics? Simply holding your frequency, enjoying the absolute perfection of the present moment, and peacefully allowing the unseen wave of potential, the necessary time, to fully form into the physical particle you've beautifully designed, without rushing it, panicking, and creating resistance.
Patience as an active quantum tool.
Yeah.
I love that perspective shift. Well, as we wrap up this exploration, think back to the core premise.
You are the architect.
The reality you step into tomorrow is quite literally being coded and compiled by the thoughts, the frequencies, and the expectations you are entertaining right now, in this exact moment.
It's happening right now.
Your life is an ocean of infinite potential waiting for you to simply, calmly decide where to place the massive power of your attention. So keep a sharp eye out for those squeaky little bugs today, practice breathing deeply into the flow when the pressure spikes, and enjoy the incredible, mathematically precise unfolding of your own creation. We'll leave you to it.